What is going on, everybody? It is Ryan from Work Defined, and today I am so excited to introduce the guest that we had the opportunity to speak with, Jenn Ravalli, who is the CMO at Harri, which is just a fantastic solution. But I'm excited about this episode because we speak to a lot of people and we collaborate with a lot of people. Jenn is one of these people. We've worked with Jenn, we've collaborated with Jenn, we brainstormed with Jenn, we just shoot the shit with Jenn, and we realized we'd never actually learned her story. We never took time to understand her journey. So I am so excited to get this episode live for you all, to take a listen and learn about the success, the failures, the challenges, mentorship, everything that we go through with Jenn. Without further ado, here we go.
Raise the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. Start converting your B2B audience today. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started today at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, this is William Tincup and Ryan Leary. You're listening and watching the Inside the C-Suite podcast. We have Jenn Ravalli on today. Jenn, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Pronounce your last name for me one time.
Ravalli.
Thank you. See, Texans,
It's not that hard.
No, we butcher that stuff. I'm sorry. So sorry.
But I would have said Ravalli. Ravalli.
Yeah.
For as long as I've known you, I always have said Ravalli.
I'll answer to either one, so not bad.
It sounds good to me.
Entire life being called ravioli, so it's totally fine.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I'm never going to unsee that now. I'm always going to know you as Jenn Ravioli.
Jenn Ravioli. I don't know where we're going to go from here, but Jenn, do us a favor and introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing now, where you're at.
Sure. So my name's Jenn Ravalli. I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Harri, which is an HR technology platform specifically for frontline workers. We have started really in restaurants and continuing to build into more frontline areas. It has been some of your favorite brands run on Harri. So folks like McDonald's, Shake Shack, etc., really support their employees through what, reason I joined was very much that it was something that I saw absent in HR technology. Everybody's trying to take a desk workforce solution and pigeonhole it for frontline. And this was really meant to be built for the frontline first. And our founder was a restaurant owner himself, and so really saw the need for something that was spoke and something that could work for them.
Yeah, so I know this is all about you. This show is going to be all about you and your journey. But let's just dig for just 30 seconds. Why does a general HR tech software not work for frontline? What is really the difference between a software built for frontline versus not?
Mm-hmm. Well, it all needs to be mobile first and mobile centric and built that way to start. The other thing is there's significant regulation for particularly quick service restaurants and other frontline workforces that are just not contemplated in terms of particularly the workforce management side. Nobody goes that deep down to the municipality level the way that's necessary to support those regulations where, fair work week and things of that nature. The other thing is just it's about speed, right? We make everything incredibly flexible so that a frontline manager can use it. It is not a recruiter or an HR practitioner that is running the day-to-day. It is a general manager of a restaurant who has 100,000 other things to do. So they can't be stuck in their office. They have to be able to move quickly, change the process in flight, and to be able to maximize that. So we see often that, we can go from post to hire within 24 hours. and reduce scheduling time for that manager, sometimes from 4 hours a week to 30 minutes, given the way that we've thought so implicitly about what do they need in order to be most successful.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add, Ryan, is multi-unit.
Yes.
Being able to go across, if it's a franchise, they've got 1,000 McDonald's, let's say, being able to go across 1,000 things and letting the individual managers or operators, owners in some cases, be able to do what they need to do is something that a traditional enterprise software play for HR they struggle with.
Yeah.
Now the tough part is they'll lie, and I'll say lie because they'll lie and say they can do it. And so there is kind of noise in the marketplace where people will say that they can handle restaurants or quick serve in particular, and they'll say that they can handle it, and they really can't. Not in the way that Jennifer's talking about it.
And so implicitly on that point, we have built everything bottom up instead of top down to be able to support that flexibility. Because you may have 1,000 McDonald's, but you may also own 1,000 Wendy's. And so if you want to be able to see everything related to your workforce in one place and understand the marriage between employee data and profitability, then you need to be able to see all of that there, regardless of concept type, regardless of state, as well.
So let's go all the way back to high school or college. What did you want to be when you first started? You wanted to be something like a race car driver, fire person. What was the bit?
So interestingly enough, I spent a lot of my childhood performing, which I think is some of what has gotten me.
Like performing, singing, or acting.
All the above.
It's a song. Let's start there. Come on.
I don't know if I'm ready.
Stop holding out.
Dance for me, Chopper. Dance.
All right, look, at HR Tech, in the booth, karaoke, you kick it off.
Yeah.
We'll do that, definitely.
100%. What's your favorite karaoke song?
My favorite karaoke song is what is it that I usually go to? I usually go to something either from like Gavin DeGraw or maybe a little Houston. Just depends on what you're in the mood for.
Let's say it's got to be something Jersey based, right? You got to throw in "Living on a Prayer." Come on, Born to Run. Come on. Like mine's Freebird. Anytime I can do Freebird, I'm gonna do Freebird.
Nice.
Yeah, I want to see you do karaoke.
No,
that's what I want to see.
Right,
I'm not doing it, but you can.
Let's just say there's alcohol usually, but not usually, always involved. If you see me on a stage in karaoke, you can just go ahead and assume that there's a public intoxication ticket waiting for me.
Yeah.
So anyhow, you performed when you were younger, etc. So what did you want to be?
So I had always wanted to be I wanted to make it. I had some early recording soundtracks and stuff like that had been part of that foray. Actually, but it's funny, I set my sights on going to school for international relations until I took a television and media class in high school. And got to work both behind and in front of the camera. And said, hey, I'm going to apply to this little school called NYU and, go and see if I can get into their communications and marketing department. It seems like something that could be a lot of fun. And I got in. I went to NYU. NYU also afforded me a great opportunity to still audition and to still perform while I was in school, which was nice. And that was where I really started to get my feet wet on how do people buy, why do people buy, and what drives them. And so my favorite class was something called symbiotic analysis, where I analyzed the song as part of my thesis.
Thong.
The classic by Cisco, yes. We know that very well.
Shit.
your thing.
Yeah.
No,
It took me a moment. I'm like, did she
No.
just say the thong song?
She glanced right over. I'm like, thong,
Yeah.
thong, thong, thong.
All right.
Yeah,
So
all right.
right
Okay.
away, we know this is not like the traditional C-suite interviews that we have.
No,
Yeah.
no.
but
Cisco's
Yeah.
involved.
yeah,
Cisco's
amazing
involved.
how much symbolism and how people think about gender and
Yeah.
come
Mhm.
into what you do as a marketer, and how you
Right.
think about
Right.
getting people to make certain decisions. So, what's also interesting is I actually graduated just after September 11th. So I was the graduating year like at that point. So I graduated
Yeah.
in
2001.
2002. So it was, and you had to do something called integrated liberal arts. And that was all about advertising. And my thesis was called America's Not a Hamburger, because there was a tremendous amount of rebranding effort that was going on to how did you take kind of the rebrand America and make people feel like there wasn't this kind of threat of Western kind of mechanization kind of coming to more Eastern cultures. And so it was like I learned so much about PR and how do you think about where you want to sit in terms of brand positioning and messaging, just through kind of watching that and studying it as part of it. And so I did some time at a PR firm for a while and loved that, particularly on the television side, doing media relations. And by the time I was done with that internship, I was my old clients and was handling their messaging end to end. But it was really kind of, you have to pay the bills, and PR isn't really the most always, flush with money opportunity coming straight out of school. So I actually took a job in sales, and I credit a lot of who I am as a marketer because I have a tremendous amount of empathy for sellers from holding a bag. So I sold insurance from an inside sales perspective, which is a really hard job, and ended up.
That's better than knocking on doors.
Now that's the Glengarry leads right there. Yeah.
Verizon knocks at your door.
Dude, that shit gets real when you watch that movie. You're like, oh, man.
Yeah. So Jen, at what point did you say, and I know you said you took these classes, but at what point did you say, you know what, I'm not going to be a performer, and I actually do enjoy this marketing thing, or what became the marketing thing?
Yeah, so I had an agent when I was in New York and was working with her and had some success along the way. But there was always this pressure to be smaller, to do things differently. And probably at like 21 years old, 75 pounds, sopping wet. And they said, you have to lose 10 more pounds. And
oh yeah, not a joke. Yeah.
This is how people get in trouble in the arts. And
100%.
it was, I wasn't using my brain. I was enjoying using my brain in some of the efforts I was doing, both in my internship and in my schooling, and just said, hey, like, this is fun for me to kind of keep as a hobby, but I'm not going to put all of my energy here right now. I also had a lot of friends who had grown up through the arts and who had kind of auditioned right alongside me, who had run into a lot of different challenges in life, going down that path. And so I really enjoyed being in a workplace and really enjoyed working with other people and coming up with ideas, and just said, hey, like, let's kind of go in this direction and make a living that way.
Right. It's like Morgan Freeman said, if you weren't an actor, and he full stops the interview, he's like, I'd be an actor wherever I would be. Like, I'm not going to not be an actor. I'd be an actor. I mean, I might be at a shopping mall and acting at a shopping mall, but I'm going to act. And so I think that about a lot of performers, a lot of actors. It's like you've got to go all in. And so when you were dealing with people, you probably saw a lot of eating disorders or addictions to meth or coke or and some type of amphetamines to keep them slender. It's like that's counterproductive, especially if you like using your brain, like you said. Once you got turned on to, hey, wait a minute, I can use my brain. I'm actually smart and I can do all this other stuff. And performing, it probably became just less attractive for all the trappings. The upside's cool. The downside is not near as cool.
Yeah, and now it's the way that I decompress. So, like, if I'm super stressed out, I will do a show, like, and it seems counterintuitive, but I will throw all my energy into doing that.
Right.
But it's exactly that. Like, you see so much, like, where folks can't handle what's going on, or they, can't necessarily also support themselves, and it makes it hard.
Right.
But you're right. Like, you always are an actor and you're always performing. Like, those skills have helped me so much in being able to, like, speak in front of people and do other things as well along the way.
That was interesting for Ryan's class. It's like, or his question, like, when did you stop? Or, you didn't stop. You just morphed your career and used your creative energy in a different way. Now you use your creative energy in marketing and selling concepts that you want to be sold around the ideas that you have in marketing. So you're still creative. You're just as creative as you were before. You're just using that creative energy in a different way.
Exactly.
So
Nice.
outside of sales, what'd you do after sales?
Yeah, so I started creating, as any seller sometimes does, my own materials. And the marketing team actually took notice.
Don't change the logo.
So they started asking questions. Hey, what are you doing differently? This seems to be working. Maybe there's a path for you here, and collaborating a little bit more. And I saw a lot of success in that area and kind of started putting a path to moving more into the marketing space in exactly. So really looked through some mentorship, both internally and externally. Learned some graphic design, did some things that, would help me kind of continue to do that, and helped my sellers who I supported be more successful overall. So when it was time to kind of look for another role, I looked very specifically for something that was marketing centric. And that's kind of what took me to a health insurance company. So still in insurance, but in a little bit different of an avenue, where I came in to run a very specific program that was about extremely local marketing. It was high strategy, also still really kind of dug into kind of the creative side as well, and took that on. And that's when I went to HealthNet, which is still maybe my favorite company I've ever worked for, and went to the team who had actually built Oxford health plans. Like, you hear about Oxford millionaires in the health insurance space. And HealthNet had hired the marketers, particularly the VP of marketing from Oxford, to run their marketing program. And I got to be a part of that team. So about the people you get to learn from, I was really lucky to be in a place with great marketing leaders and a very supportive environment overall that was primed for growth. Everybody has their challenges, but if you start to be really invested in the business really early, like, you learn how to navigate those waters as well. And that was the team that supported that wholehearted.
Jen, I want to go back to, you mentioned mentors. Mm-hmm. You found some mentors.
Sought out mentors. Very specific.
Yes. So talk a little bit about, what did you look for in a mentor? Let me rewind a bit. A lot of people that listen to this show, their aspirations are to get into the C-suite, whatever group they're a part of. Some of them are stuck at this stage of, how do I get to the next level? Who can I talk to? Who can I lean on? Talk about mentorship. What role did that play in your climb, and how did you pick who you wanted to be your mentor?
Sure. So at that stage, it was very much about looking at folks who were doing things that I was interested in. And I was always very interested in leadership and leading teams, and exercising the creative piece, and kind of how I move out of sales. So I looked for folks in like the New York Women in Communications area who had done just that, who had made changes.
Through NYU or
So
otherwise?
New York Women in Communications is like a group that you can join. And so I was in the city at the time. And so I was able to join that and kind of look for folks who had made some of those career journeys during the
that's cool.
monthly meetups that they would have. I also looked, like, our home office was in Chicago and I was in New York. So most of the marketing team was out there. But I made it a point to reach out and create relationships with folks who were manager and above in the marketing department, and just say, hey, can you give me some time to talk me through like how you got here and what you're doing next.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least that was the plan. Except now the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for this day.
Tuesday on NBC, Jimmy Fallon and Bozoma St. John host the highly anticipated new competition show.
I hired 10 creatives from all walks of life. They will be battling it out to see who can impress the world's biggest brands.
This is a huge opportunity.
This is the battle for the next big idea.
This is not play.
We're spending millions of dollars.
I'm so excited to embark on this adventure with all of you.
May the best idea win!
On Brand with Jimmy Fallon. Series premiere Tuesday on NBC.
I also have a person who I think has influenced me a lot in my career from my PR internship. Her name is Amy Metrick, and she actually leads marketing at Origins now. But she stayed very close to me throughout kind of my early career and helped me kind of think about how I navigate way through. To me, it's all about asking. Hey, people are usually very, very honored to be asked if you can share some experience with them, or, hey, I'm looking to do what you do. Like, how can we talk about that more? So I've never been shy about asking someone I admire to give me some of their time. In true mentor capacities, it's to me all about chemistry and timing. So how do you find somebody who you jive with? And sometimes that can be super awkward. And somebody who also has the right time frame in their career to spend the time with you, because you are the one who, as a mentee, who has to drive that relationship. And I had later on in my career, I have like the mentor who will be my mentor for the rest of my life. But sometimes it's not a great time to start that relationship, and both of you have to be really upfront about that. Like if there's too much distraction, but it doesn't mean that that's a never. It just means that it might not be right now.
So one of the things you said pre-show about HealthNet is you had a healthy marketing budget. So define that for us, because Ryan and I probably went into two different places with that number. Like what percentage of revenue, or what type of number are we talking about?
There's a lot of, I look up as in there is a lot of compliance requirements in the health insurance space. So some of the dollars goes there. By the time that I left HealthNet, I was running commercial, which is employer-based health insurance, Medicaid, and Medicare. And so with that, there's a direct-to-consumer and a B2B component. So my budget was around $30 million.
And that's where your career started to go downhill. Is
Then you came to HR tech, so let's talk about that.
I'm just kidding. That is a wonderful budget. I mean, even if some of it's gobbled up with boring stuff, but you got to do some creative things too,
I got
right?
to do a ton of creative things. Besides running, being able to be a part of a rebrand for like the entire company. I ran the Northeast region by the time that I left HealthNet. Also got to manage, we were acquired by United Healthcare in the Northeast, and was able to play a really big role in the transition, which was all a marketing job. To get members to change from HealthNet and continue on with United. So got to be front and center, both for like the M&A process, but then also into how do you take those members, make them feel like they're not being left behind, and that they have a home at a much bigger health plan that it may not be as friendly as the one that you're coming from. And so being able to navigate some of that was really exciting. We also, Medicaid was actually my favorite part of the business, because you're just doing something right for the world and getting children health care. And got to design a mascot to be able to support that. Worked on some super creative things with folks like the Mexican consulate, to be able to give opportunities for folks to enroll in places that they might not likely think. A lot of the health plans sit in healthcare offices and enroll people, whereas like you need to play baseball, you need health insurance. How do you find those interesting places to be able to make your mark and get people to take action?
That's all. So let's get into the mind of Jenn Ravalli. What is it that you are thinking about now? And we'll get back to the trajectory. But let's kind of step aside. What is it now that you're thinking about? Not what's keeping you up at night, but what are you thinking about for young people who are in this process? What are you thinking about for them as they're starting to grow their career? Maybe they're a job or two out of college, they feel stuck. Like, what are you talking to them about?
So always raise your hand. The things that got me here are the things that are completely outside of my, normal job responsibility. I started with a project.
No, it's interesting you say that. I mean, I want to throw this in there so you can comment on it too. William, I forget, we were speaking with somebody, this is just a couple of weeks ago, where they said, the mistake that I made is I made it and I got to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't raise my hand. I didn't interject and give my thoughts.
That was Taylor Lynn.
Was Taylor
Lynn?
Yeah, okay, yeah. Somebody else would give my thoughts for me.
Sure.
Yeah. I think that's important. Yeah. Sorry, I don't want to cut you up, but it just like I want you to comment on that too, because I kind of feel like that's what's happening.
William, you're just raising your hand.
I'm just raising my hand.
He's just raising his hand.
You just had to raise your hand.
This is where the video audience gets it, and then the audio audience is like, "Why?
I don't understand. Why is it it's dead air? I don't like it."
Because William's raising his hand.
I like the idea of raising your hand.
Like, I think to run one project at HealthNet. And it was this My Town, which was really cool and was like the biggest part of our marketing strategy, because it was hyper efficient and strategic. But I was like, hey, like I have bandwidth, like give me more to do. And I just continued to take on more and more and position myself to be somebody who could be both trusted, but also was not afraid of doing things that I had never done before. And so that opened me up for lots of opportunities while I was there. It's why I was one of the 10 people who knew we were being sold. It's, those are the types of things that helped me, like what I, feel like give like MBA in practice versus kind of in theory.
So what'd you do after?
So I got recruited to a little place called ADP, who was beginning a stealthy startup within ADP focused on the health insurance brokerage space for small businesses. They were looking for a very long time for someone who had experience in health insurance to come and lead their kind of go-to-market efforts. So I came in and, into ADP and, learned to kind of navigate the ecosystem that is there. And it was really very interesting because there was a handful of folks who really had a lot of experience in the industry, but a lot of kind of bringing in from around. It was about there was probably maybe $2 million of revenue at the time, but a lot of growth and a lot of growing pains. And I was there for a couple months. I was, getting everything kind of locked and loaded. And we actually had a departure of the person who was running the operations side of the health insurance part of insurance services. And who I would call there's sponsorship too, not just mentorship. And someone who I consider my sponsor is Nick Slitterman, who was the general manager and SVP of the overall insurance business. He actually spoke at my wedding. But he said to me, hey, this person departed. I'd really like you to consider taking his job. And completely deadpan. And I'm like, I'm a marketing person. I've never run a P&L. I, don't necessarily customer service, call center. This is all incredibly different. And he goes, and I said, I'd love to be considered. I'll put my hat in the ring in an interview. He goes, no, I think you should take the job.
I'm appointing you this position.
It really wasn't more of a question. It was,
yeah. And I was like, I'd love to be considered. That's great. And I'm like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah, I don't come into anything without being completely serious. And so I talked it over and said, all right, let's try this. And, it's still probably one of the most challenging things I have ever done. I grew up.
Will you ever do it again?
I would like to probably, where I want to go, yes, I would have to. But I went from being 14 people and about $2 million of revenue to 130 people across the globe, and over 25 million in revenue, 5,000 customers by the time that I took on my next role at ADP. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, but I learned the most in that job. And I had such a supportive manager in Vic who made it okay for me to not know everything and to make mistakes and push me hard, but push me in the right way. And I thirst for that on a regular basis, that ability to learn and do more. And it was exhausting. But it was one of the best things I've ever done.
What was the next role at ADP? You teased us with this thing. What did you do after that?
So now I had this level of business kind of experience that you don't see typically in marketers. ADP was looking to really make a transition from being known as a services company to a technology company. So I joined the inaugural product marketing team at ADP to lead two businesses within. So I took the healthcare reform, which was going to be launched, and needed to launch that across the company. And then also the benefits business, which was benefits administration. So very much kind of within my understanding, but was not necessarily as healthy as kind of that new launch piece. So figuring out how to balance.
Is that before or after y'all ADP acquired, I think it was Benefocus. They acquired a benefits management technology at one point.
Right after, a couple of years after they acquired that. And that's with a great.
Yeah. That was a great acquisition.
It was a wonderful acquisition and a great product. And, we were able to really see making that come to fruition within ADP, which, acquiring, ingesting, and then growing things is always hard at any company.
Right.
So it was a lot of fun to kind of help make 100%. That come to life. But it was also what is product marketing? Product marketing was very new. There were very few companies that even had marketing at that point. So, got to do a lot of work with great people like Tony Marzulli and Don Weinstein on defining that and being able to say, this is where, my role changes. where the marketing team comes in, where the product team comes in, and also learned a ton about technology, which really lit me up because it's very hard to take the complexity of technology and simplify it for people to understand it on the layman's terms. And that was the ultimate challenge. And so it was tons of fun. I took on more and more responsibility, ended up leading then an overall HCM for the national account space and product marketing, took on many of the parts of the business that supported multiple business units, and really learned ADP and how to kind of work in there, get into the HR tech landscape. You know, it was my first HR tech was probably, I don't know, 2015. And then that was like opening up an entirely new kind of area of like being a part of a community and not just a part of a company.
Were Tony, I got to work with Tony and Don as well. Were they
Tony
mentors
is on
as well?
actually, I'd say both of them are on my personal board of directors. As I had lunch with Don, not too long ago. We keep in touch. And Tony is always my person when I need help navigating career decisions. Yeah.
Wonderful people. You've been surrounded with wonderful people. So you, at one point, you leave the largest payroll company in the world. What was the impetus to leave? Because it seems like you could have stayed there forever.
Before we got on, you were talking a little bit about like family journey, and I had gotten married, and ADP was an incredibly long commute for me. I was going, 90 minutes each way, most of the week. And so when we started to kind of put our focus on starting a family, like it just didn't seem like it was super sustainable. And we had struggled. So, you try to think about some of that balance. And I was reached out to by iSIMS, who was going to be starting their product marketing department. And I like to build. I think that has been a huge theme across my career. And I got to build that basically from scratch, and hired some of the most talented people I'd ever had the pleasure of working with, people who are now also leading within HR Tech. So, Gaz Kalkovic and Michelle Meehan over at Plum are all people who are part of that inaugural team. And it was a lot of fun to build that out.
Who did you report up to
and then
under
Susan
product
Vitale.
marketing? Yeah, of course.
Okay. Yeah. So, Jen, you mentioned that you like to build. Do you prefer as transcending into the leadership roles that you're in now? Do you prefer now, or do you still prefer to join a company that has nothing and build it? Or do you want to walk into a company that has something, maybe it's a shit show, maybe it's not, and you're there to fix it?
So
Where
I
do you
found
fall
my
there?
favorite thing.
That's my technical terms.
My favorite thing is taking startup to scale up. So it's that period where what got you there may not get you to that next, mark, the 100 million.
Right.
And so you need to start to rethink kind of things for longer term scale. How you put in place all the stuff so it can support itself. So that's been kind of the journey I've been on the last couple of jobs, and I've really enjoyed that. Have been able to see, like, when you put a little bit of that effort in, how quickly it can change the trajectory and move really fast. I also really love, like, being able to say, hey, like, this is the strategy we set and it worked or it didn't, and taking responsibility for that. So that's been really the most fun. And I think you can get that in different companies. It just very much depends on, where do you want to be locked in? Like, all of my jobs at ADP were innovation jobs, things that didn't exist before, but in a company.
iSIMS too, with product marketing, didn't exist. What brought you to
I was ready to
Pando?
run it. I wanted to have marketing end to end. They came and were interested in kind of my background, and I saw something really special. That's the other thing. I like seeing technology that is like diamond in the rough, like could really make impact on the world, but just needs the light and heat to be able to see it come to life. And that's what I saw at Pando, and we had a fantastic run.
That was a wonderful rebrand, by the way. I mean, it's like they went from overnight from people didn't have no idea that they were even in the market to being almost market dominant.
Thank you. I'm very proud of that. It was the best executive team. Had so much fun working together.
Yeah.
And that was a labor of love that I'm very proud of.
What about let's talk some challenges. Don't want to make this like a job interview. What's a challenge and how do you overcome this, right?
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Where do you see yourself in 5 years? But I'm sure you've come across challenges and just your background, right? Coming from performing, going into marketing, kind of starting obviously at the bottom, to being female in a male dominant space at the time. What are some of those challenges that you face that sadly some will still face today? But how did you build that circle around you to get past that?
Oh, that's a tough one. Yeah.
Should we just extend 20 minutes? Is that what we're hearing?
I'd say
I'm sorry.
You think you asked her like 7 questions. But,
no, there was one with 7 possible tracks.
So I have found, I am you guys know this about me. I am very smiley. I am very I would say, and I've always been that way. So I think there's been a big transition. Yeah.
You're positive. Every time I've interacted with you through the years, I've always got off a call feeling better because you're not a Debbie Downer. No, seriously. You're not a Debbie Downer. You're a pragmatist, but you're always positive.
But there was a time when being your authentic self was not really cool. And
I don't remember that time.
I got a lot of feedback that, hey, you already look younger than you are.
Tone it down.
Your hair is long. Cut all your hair off. Only.
Wow.
That's what I did. It worked for me.
They more or less emasculating you or making you more masculine.
I'm also under 5 feet tall.
Yeah.
Most people don't know that about me. But I've always been very much my authentic self and brought my authentic self to work. And that doesn't always work for everybody. It's been better.
100%.
I would say in the last 8 years. But I went through this trajectory where there is no glass ceiling. I'm just jumping through it, right? And then hit it hard.
Boom, did it.
I do. Why?
This realization that
totally get it.
God, people don't just see people for what they're providing value, but they actually do see other things and use that to make decisions about you. And that was some of the hardest work.
Was this kind of the first time you've experienced that?
So I was probably about 30 at the time. And it was the first time that I really felt that. Everything was always, you're young, you're female, keep going.
Guys are living. Go.
I think one of the youngest executives at ADP at the time. And it was very eye-opening when you realize that not everybody sees you for what you bring to the table, and that you have to then think about how to navigate that differently. I think things like situational leadership helped me move through that. Also, my mentor, who will be my mentor for life, is Kristen Andreski, who had battled similar things and had a dedication to bringing women up through the ranks. And she really helped me navigate those waters. And I think Tony really helped me navigate those waters too. He was a humongous advocate for me and was able to, be able to be someone who could speak about me positively when I wasn't in the room. When things like that happen, and you need that to be able to push through.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. I think a lot of people, I rarely think about that because I just assume everybody is just nice. That's just kind of who I am. But the way you said that kind of just hit. He speaks nice about me when I'm not in the room.
Right.
We need more people around us like that.
Last question for me. Did you ever perform
I did
Annie?
it twice. Once professional.
On stage or in the bedroom?
Yeah, as I say, in the shower. Tomorrow. What now?
So
when did you do it?
Annie when I was 10 years old, and then again when I was 11. That was my first professional performance, and my was doing that at Theater Fest with the folks who were actually doing Little Rockers on Broadway at the time. And it was a lot of fun. So to get a paycheck when you're 11 years old is really cool. It was on my wall for many years.
100%. That's fantastic. Jenn, we could talk to you forever, but you've, obviously got other things to do. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your journey, your insight.
Thank you so much for having me. And please, anytime. It was such a pleasure, and I really enjoyed talking to you both.